I've been living on a boat on the water for 4.5 years now, and that is the first time I've been scared of the water. I felt nervous even just talking about it. Today we've got a very exciting day.
I'm really excited. I haven't actually done this since I was 16 and tried it one time. And I can't believe that we've sailed halfway around the world and lived on a boat for 4.5 years and haven't ever got round to doing this. So yeah, today's a really big day for me. Marco said it's really important that you're really relaxed, so I'm preparing myself.
This is something we've both wanted to try for ages.
So we are going to do introduction dive in the house reef just over there. But first of all, I want to teach you a few skills for your own safety and for my own safety, because we are sharing the same risk and there is risk even in a shallow dive.
In the last 4 years since leaving England, we have crossed 2 oceans and sailed over halfway around the world.
Our circumnavigation of the world is on pause here in Indonesia on the edge of the Indian Ocean, but our adventure continues. Today we have a new challenge: scuba diving.
I've wanted to learn how to scuba dive for years, long before we set off to sail around the world. But the reality is I've only actually tried it once in a shallow swimming pool, and that was back when I was 16, which is quite a long time ago now.
I've tried scuba diving once in a swimming pool in England about 20 years ago. I was in the water for about 10 minutes and I really enjoyed the experience, but the thought of going scuba diving in the cold, murky waters around the UK where we lived just did not appeal.
For many years, our main hobby of sailing has taken up all of our spare time and cash. But back in 2015, we'd actually just got to the point of looking at going on holiday somewhere that was warm so we could learn how to scuba dive when Matt got made redundant. So we put all of our plans on hold and set off to sail around the world instead. Definitely no regrets there.
Now, on our voyage around the world, we've visited many places which are world class for diving, such as the Tuamotus in the South Pacific and Komodo National Park here in Indonesia. But most of those places that are really good for diving are not great for learning. A lot of the places we've been have had a lot of strong currents going through, which would be really difficult to learn in. But now we find ourselves here, forced to stop for a while because of COVID, and we're in a place which doesn't have strong currents but does have some beautiful reefs. And best of all, Marco has offered to take us for a trial dive.
Our trial dive started with a briefing from Marco on the dock.
I don't want to scare you, but there is risk involved and we must learn to avoid problems. So the first rule for scuba diving is never hold your breath. Second rule, when we descend, we always compensate before we feel any discomfort, which for your first dive can be tricky because you don't know what to expect, and most of the beginners, they wait to feel something. Ah yes, I have to equalize. No, we have to equalize all the time. I will remind you all plenty of time during the dive. The most important thing while diving is relax, relax and relax. You must be relaxed. Your brain is still, for the first dive, your brain is still working as a terrestrial mammal, so unconsciously you have a tendency to be tense, especially the top of the shoulder and the neck. And the top of the shoulder and the neck is pulling your lungs up, and you feel that you suffocate because you cannot breathe. So to relax, you must have a very cool, easy breathing, but to have a very relaxed breathing, you must relax your body. So, very good. Next one.
Trying the kit out on land, it's surprising how heavy and cumbersome it is. But Marco says that will all change as soon as we enter the water.
We started in the shallow water next to the pier where we could stand on the bottom and practice removing and recovering our regulators and clearing water from our masks. Once Marco was happy that we could manage that, we headed off into slightly deeper water to explore along the reef.
Yeah. Okay, so now we go for fun?
Yeah.
Ready? So the most important thing is going to be
yes.
So we are going to swim slowly down here to turn around the pier, and when we reach the second ladder we are going down a bit more.
Okay.
And take care of your ears, show me if you have problems.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Now this definitely beats a swimming pool to dive in.
Although we're only scuba diving to depths that I can free dive down to, exploring the reef without the need to return for a breath of air at the surface every few minutes makes it feel like a whole new world. The combination of the weightlessness and breathing through a strange new apparatus had me feeling like I was on the moon. I felt so alive and entranced by my surroundings. It seemed like no time at all, but we'd been underwater for nearly an hour before we returned to the surface. That was so cool!
How was your dive?
Oh, that was amazing! I can't believe we haven't done that before.
57 minutes for the first dive.
Oh, that was amazing!
15 meters maximum.
I'm really happy that we've finally tried scuba diving for real. And sometimes when you've been looking forward to something for as long as I have been looking forward to scuba diving, you build it up in your mind to the extent where when you try it for real, it's a bit of an anticlimax and it's not as good as you thought it would be. But for me, this was not that. It was even better than I could have imagined. I absolutely loved it.
For me, it wasn't quite as an amazing experience. The first part of it, where we had to clear our masks, fill our masks full of water and then clear them and practice recovering the regulator, was fine. We were stood on the bottom, we weren't very deep, and I really enjoyed kind of learning new skills and having a bit of a challenge. But once we started to go a bit deeper, I really found it pretty difficult. I struggled to clear my ears, and I really struggled with my buoyancy control. It's something that I'd never really guessed or understood would be a thing about scuba diving, but it makes sense when you think about it. When you breathe in, you fill your lungs with air and you become a balloon and you go up, and then when you breathe out, the air goes out of your lungs, you're a smaller balloon and you go down. But I just found that when I was under the water, that every time I wanted to breathe in and I'd start going up, and Amy and Marco are looking at some clownfish and stuff on the bottom, and there's me just struggling, really struggling to not just disappear off up to the surface. Whenever I breathed in, I found myself going up, and I got more and more, I guess, tense, and I wasn't very relaxed. That probably made it worse. But I got to the point where I felt like I couldn't breathe in, so I was trying to just breathe really small breaths, and I wanted to take a big deep breath to get more oxygen or more air in my lungs, and I didn't feel like I could do that without shooting off to the surface. And the deeper we went, I think we went down to about 15 meters maximum, the deeper we went, actually the more problem I found it. And then I actually at one point found myself just looking up at the surface, which was obviously way above, and kind of thinking, there's a lot of water between me and the surface and I really don't like this. And I didn't tell them at the time. I knew the signals to say I'm scared. That's the symbol for I'm scared and things are not being okay. But I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to ruin it for Amy. But actually, the best point on that dive for me was the point at which we turned round and started retracing our steps back to the dock, because it just become kind of a bit of an endurance thing for me. It was a real struggle. I really didn't want to be there. I really just wanted to get out of the water. I'm normally so confident in the water, and I've been living on a boat on the water for 4.5 years now, and that is the first time I've been scared of the water. So I didn't tell Marco when he came out of the water. I mean, I'm still really grateful for the experience. It was an amazing experience to do. I thought I'd love it. I never believed that I'd feel as scared or afraid, and that it would make me feel that way. But yeah, I'm a bit of a contrast to Amy. Amy would love to go and do the scuba diving course and carry on doing more scuba diving, and I have to say that right now I never want to do that again. I was just looking up at the surface, so much water above me, just everything. I'm like, this is not right. Humans shouldn't be down here. If one small thing goes wrong, I didn't like it. I felt nervous even just talking about it. It took me a while to confess how I really felt to Amy, and I hadn't said any of this to Marco because I didn't want to seem ungrateful for him taking us diving. I certainly wasn't expecting to be feeling this way. Eventually, Amy persuaded me that I really ought to talk to Marco a bit more about how I really felt.
A couple of days later, we took Marco out for a sail on Florence, and Matt had the opportunity to be a little more honest about how he really felt on that first dive.
Although I didn't fully admit to the level of my struggles and fears or how uncomfortable I'd felt under the water on that trial dive, I did share that I'd felt very nervous and that I struggled with equalising the pressure in my ears, and that I really struggled with my buoyancy control.
The result of their man-to-man chat was an offer from Marco to take us for a second dive, in which Marco would concentrate on Matt to help him get past his fears and concerns and to feel more relaxed under the water.
Even as we rowed into the pier for the second dive, I was having second thoughts. I really had to force myself to follow through with it. The face I showed to Marco on the surface was not how I was really feeling inside. I knew it was irrational. I'm usually very confident in the water, but for some reason I developed a fear of being deep underwater. There was no rational reason for not wanting to take that step off the dock, but I really had to force myself to do it. So much for being calm and relaxed. Marco had spent some time discussing my breathing and buoyancy control with me before the dive. And he had a list of exercises for me to try to understand and improve my control under the water. Focusing on these exercises helped me to forget my irrational fears. As I started to understand more how to control my buoyancy, and realised that it did not mean that I couldn't have any air in my lungs when I wanted it, I began to relax and things became easier. Marco had me hovering mid-water, consciously using my lungs to control my depth. Once I was more comfortable with my breathing and buoyancy control, we set off to explore the house reef again, and this time I was able to enjoy the underwater world around me. Learning how to control my buoyancy and my breathing without feeling like I could not have any air in my lungs transformed the underwater experience for me. Instead of being an ordeal that had to be endured, it became a magical tour of underwater wonders. I've always loved snorkeling in the warm, clear waters in which we sail, but the ability to stay underwater without having to keep coming up for air allows us the time to stand and stare.
Cuttlefish with their colour changing ability are one of our favourite underwater spectacles. We can stop and watch a cuttlefish for ages, transfixed by its changing camouflage.
This second dive was a completely different experience to me, and I am hooked. Now that really was an awesome experience.
Yeah, I'm really glad that Matt stuck at it and got over his fears, because it's always much nicer when we can learn how to do something together.
Yeah, I mean, that's down to Marco. He really did a good job of teaching me a little bit more so that I got more confidence and managed to control my buoyancy under the water, and transformed the experience for me. Transformed it so much so that we've actually just decided that we're actually going to go and talk to Marco, and we're going to go and do our PADI open water diver course here to become qualified divers.
Yeah, so hopefully that will mean in the future we'll be able to share some of the amazing dive sites that we travel to around the world. But in the next video we're going to share with you the experience and what it's like to learn how to dive.
Very new experience for us, under the water instead of over it.